Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This video is especially for people who bought my book and who would like to practice the Arabic calligraphy inside the book. Now, this is a standard Naskh writing book. It doesn't follow any particular special style or anything. It is just standard Naskh. And what I mean by standard is that it is recognizable to read by anyone who can read Arabic. Right. So you get different types of Arabic calligraphy, but for this one, we're focusing on the Naskh. Now you'll see the book is made up of what you call it, pages, which are obviously, first of all, glossy paper, made up of glossy paper. And so that means if you take your normal cartridge paper, you will find that the surface is different, right? And that's because usually in Arabic calligraphy, we're writing with a reed pen and we're doing a pushing motion, especially if you're right-handed. Although if you're left-handed, it's the same thing, but the strokes that's required to to be formed in Arabic calligraphy, it's best to have a slightly semi-gloss or glossy surface. Now, in the old days, they even up till today, calligraphers still prepare their own handmade paper or specially prepared paper which has a coating on that will allow you to have that glossy surface. But standard glossy paper, usually like 100 or 120 GSM should be fine. But this paper is 150 GSM, so it's slightly thicker than the normal required one. And it also has a grid on each page. So on the one side, you will see there's a grid, and obviously this one I've written in a lot already, but you'll see there's this grayed out, the grayed out section, which will give you an ability to practice and write over there. Okay, I think it's fairly straightforward and simplistic, and you can use the book really to write any style. As you can see here, I wrote some other styles of calligraphy. This is the style of Tuan Guru, which is specific to the Nusantara or Southeast Asian places like Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. Okay, so we're not going to that topic now. Basically, I just wanted to show you how the book can be used. So behind each gridded paper like this, you will see, if you turn the paper over, on the other side it's just blank. It's just a blank page. And this is how I would like everyone to make use of the paper, of the book, is not only to practice on the grid paper, on the grid side, but also and the nice thing is it has this ring binded thing, which it's ring binded, so you can flip it over if you want to, if that makes it a bit more comfortable, or you can actually just tear the page out. So this is more conducive for writing with a 2mm column, meaning the width of the column is 2mm. So you will need something, do I have a 2mm column? Something like this, which should be 2mm, and you can judge by the width there. If you put it to the thickest side and see the width that it covers, the width of the column covers the width of that stroke over there, that's basically what you need, right? So if you got a toolkit with your or you got some Arabic calligraphy ink and so on, I'm just going to show you how to just put that together, how to use the calligraphy ink, etc. Okay, so you'll need a piece of sponge or a lika. A lika is a piece of silk thread, right? In this one I've got silk thread, but it's not necessary. You can use a stocking as well. Just cut a piece of that and then roll it up and and put it inside. You don't need a lot, right? So if you have a jar, with my kit you will get a jar like this, and a piece of sponge inside it. So depending on your experience, most experienced people will obviously ask for the for the silk leaker. Right, so here I have a piece of sponge, and I'm just going to cut a small piece just to show you. You don't need a lot, you just need like a, even thinner than this, you don't need such a thick piece, especially if you're using a small small jar or container. So I'm just going to cut a small, very small piece, and I'm going to put it at the bottom over there. Maybe I'll just cut it a little bit thinner as well. Right, here we go. So now I put my thing in there, and then you use your ink, whichever ink you got. You can mix it a little bit of water as well, but usually just put in your ink first. So you're just gonna basically give a few squirts, not a lot, and then you test it from there. So you can take a stick, another stick, maybe not the column that you're going to be using to write with, and you just take that stick and then just make sure that the sponge is wet. You don't need to flip it around, but you can just, if you see that it's not fully soaked with ink, then you want to add a little bit more ink. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm moving it around, and I can see now that I have, if I squeeze this this ink, the sponge, you will see that the ink is bubbling out of it. So that means that I have over enough ink in here. So you don't want the sponge to be dry at any part of it. The thing should be entirely black, so you don't even notice that this was a white sponge, right? And then you want to test your column. Okay, so you have a column, and if you got the kit, your column should be clean. But if it's like mine, I used it, the ink dries on it like this, then you need to take a knife like this. You can get at a hardware store, and just gently scratch off the ink. You can also use a sandpaper, piece of sandpaper, like this. Okay, okay, so let me just do this, and I'm just going to use the piece of sandpaper. It's a fine grit sandpaper, not a coarse, very coarse one. And you just gently go like this, but make sure that you're not sanding your edges. The 2 points at the edges, you don't sand that away, but you're just basically trying to get rid of all the dried up ink. And you're not really sanding your column away. You just like a pencil, you need to sharpen it, but in this case you're not sharpening or shaving away everything unless you really need to recut your column, and that's a different topic, right? So try to look after your column as much as possible to the best of your ability. Now I just want to show you, if I do this, I'm taking a normal piece of paper now, and I just want to test out my ink. You can see it's working on there, and it's working fairly well, and that depends on the consistency of your ink. Maybe there's water inside there. You can, like I say, you can add a little bit of water. So for me, I kind of like I adjust my ink with the water. It's always advisable, right? So these strokes that you're going to need to practice, you have to go back to your book now, and just showing you basically how to write the alif and the ba over there. So I've tested it out, and then maybe what you want to do over here is go over all the grayed out areas, and you basically just need to touch your column onto this. This is an ink controller, so you're touching your column on there and you're doing that, right? Obviously you start from the first page, from the alif and so on. Try to make the dots, then try to do the dots on your own. Okay, I'm trying to adjust my hand because the camera is in the way. So basically you just want to have like a 45-degree angle dot which covers sorry, that was out of the out of the view of the camera. Okay, so anyway, so what I was showing is when you make your dots, you can use the grid and practice dots. Practice making your dots with this 2mm column, right? And once you're ready with that, then you go to the letters. So for example, Jim, I'm going this way. See, I'm just following the lines. I'm just following the lines. And try to keep it as close as possible to the gray line. And you see, I'm just following the line there. And as you reach, like there are some letters that has these points, and that you actually just draw with the tip of your column. Right? So a lot of people asking like, how did you get that point? It's like that, and you just draw it in. Right? For example, a ra also, there's a ra over here. You see that? So as you come down, you stop over there and then you draw the edge, you draw the point. You draw in the point like that. You don't go right till the end. So like this, 1, 2, and then I'm lifting the bottom part of my column upwards and turning and then doing that. You see? Go forward first, and then from the point you go backwards and complete it there. And that's basically how you use this book. So I hope that that gives you some some indication of as to how you're going to use your tools and so on. And make sure that you always clean your column afterwards. Use a piece of tissue paper or a wet wipe or something. Don't soak it wet. Dry it obviously. But if you don't want the ink to build up on like that, then you just and you can also have, if you have, say for example, you took too much ink and you place your ink down. Now there's too much ink on the paper. Then you can have a piece of sponge, a piece of paper, tissue paper, whatever, and you can do like that. And also hold your ink in your left hand like this while you're doing your writing. It just makes it easier. You can also place a piece of tissue under your hand or a piece of spare paper under your hand so your hand doesn't spoil the paper that you're writing. Sometimes it leaves a mark.